And so he takes the sword, and then an amazing thing that he does, he starts like swaggering with this sword along the route, like he's showing off, right? I got the sword. He didn't give it to Zubair. He gave it to me, right? Abu Dujana. And the Prophet looks at this man and he says, this is a gate except in this place. Because he's doing it for Allah and His Messenger. He's ready for martyrdom. Right? So, now, the Prophet ﷺ gives banners. There's two riwayah. One says he gave Mus'ab ibn Umair the banner again, and another says that Sayyidina Ali had it. And perhaps, Allahu A'lam, when Mus'ab died, Sayyidina Ali picked it up. But that banner was given to one of those two. And then the Prophet ﷺ sends now also another very important event is the women come out. Now he mentions Nusayba coming out, and she actually brings a sword and a spear. And she'll use her sword defending the Prophet ﷺ. Aisha came out, Fatima came out, and several other women. And they were tending the wounded and giving water. And some of them did participate in the fight. And Nusayba is important because she was there at the second Aqaba, right? The two women that were there, Nusayba and the Aqaba was swearing to defend the Prophet ﷺ in war. So she felt compelled to go out as somebody who'd been there. And what happens now is that Talha comes out and Sayyidina Hamza strikes him down, and then Sa'ad al-Zuhri puts an arrow through the neck of Talha's second brother, and then his four sons are killed one after another by Ali, Zubair, Asim bin Thabit al-Awsi. And so again, a similar event is happening that happened at Badr. Their mubarizeen are dropping. And this is important because sometimes with the Arabs, if they had a mubaraza and the people who were out for them, their giants, dropped, they didn't want to fight because they just took it as a bad omen. And so this is what's happening again. And now the battle starts. And Abu Dujana, Zubair radiallahu anh, actually said that he wanted to see why he got the sword and I didn't. And he followed Abu Dujana and he realized that the Prophet knew what he was doing when he gave it to him because he was wreaking havoc. And despite the fact that they lost very few people on that day, right? It was less than 25 men. Almost everybody was wounded. So all of their men were wounded. And most of their horses and camels had arrows in them. So this was a major battle. This was not a minor battle. This was a big battle. And over 70 of the Sahaba, radiallahu anhum jami'an, are going to die in this battle. And what happens is, and actually Abu Dujana almost kills Hind, because she's out there goading them on inside the battle, not fighting, and he's about to kill her thinking she was a man. And she screams like a woman, and he immediately, he won't kill her, right? And now what happens is Sayyidina Hamza, who is also wreaking havoc, Wahshi, he's not in this battle. He has nothing. He doesn't like Quraysh. He's a slave of Quraysh. He's not interested in fighting for them, right? He's what, Malcolm would have called a field black, right? He's not interested in helping them out, but he's there to get his freedom. That's what he wants. And he is waiting. He's watching Hamza, and there's a point where Hamza raises up, and the chainmail comes up. And he sees it. There's two riwayah, one from the front, one from the back. But he throws his spear and pierces Sayyidina Hamza. And he says later, Hamza turned towards him and started walking towards him. And he'd never seen that before. Completely petrified him because he threw him a death blow to the you have the carotid, the aorta is right there. I mean, you pierce that and a person dies very quickly. And he starts moving towards him, and then he falls on the battlefield. And now, Hind, right, I mean, she, anyway, Sayyidina Hamza has fallen, and there's the Quraysh are actually starting to flee now, because they've been inflicted. There's a lot of people wounded, and they're seeing that they're losing again, and so they begin to flee. Meanwhile, neither Akrima nor Khalid ibn Walid have moved their cavalry in, because it was a battle in which they were mixed. And they can't do that because you don't send in your cavalry. You make a charge against your enemies, but you don't send in the cavalry when the enemy's mixed, because you don't want to kill people from your own side. Moreover, the archers were over 50 archers, and they can shoot far distance. And the Prophet had picked, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best archers. So they don't want to be picked off by the archers. So they're waiting. And they're watching this happen, and they're seeing now the Quraysh are fleeing again. And Khalid ibn Walid was a strategic genius, right? I mean, he knew strategy. And what happens that the archers start seeing them gathering the booty now on the battlefield. And they say, we won, let's go. And Abdullah, who's the leader there, their Amir, says, the Prophet ﷺ commanded that we stay and not leave, and we have to stay here. And they said, no, the battle's over. We're going to miss all the ghanima. And he said, the Prophet ﷺ told us to stay here, and we have to stay. And they said, well, you stay, the battle's over. We're going down. So 40 of them go down, and only 10 stay with Abdullah. And Khalid ibn Walid sees this now, and he realizes we've got an opportunity. And Akrimah, who's on the other side, sees what Khalid's doing, and they begin to move in. And the first place he goes is to the archers. And there's 10 of them, and they're shooting, but he's got more men, and they're overcome, and they all are martyred. Now, then they move in, and they begin to wreak havoc. Because once the cavalry comes in, it's very difficult for foot soldiers to fight against people on horses. And now there's a complete shadara madara. It's a complete anarchy among ranks. And one of the men, Abu Qami'ah, he says he's going to kill the Prophet ﷺ. And so he actually runs into where the Prophet and his people are, and Mus'ab ibn Umair radiallahu anhu goes ahead, and he kills him thinking that it's the Prophet. And Mus'ab, he's the man who opened up Medina. So he kills Mus'ab. And he thinks he's killed the Prophet, so he starts shouting that the Prophet's been killed. Qutila Muhammad, Qutila Muhammad. Loudly. People start hearing this, and now there's actually people that are leaving. They're saying, it's over, let's get out of here. And a group of them who are at a distance, they really can't see what's going on over there. They actually say, let's go back to Medina and fortify ourselves. And amongst them is Uthman ibn Affan. So they leave the battlefield. And now the arrows are coming down, and there's a group of people that are with the Prophet ﷺ. And amongst them were Zubair ibn Awam, and Abu Dujana is there, and two of these Bedouin who came, Harith and Harb, they have come to defend the Prophet ﷺ. And also Nusayba is there with the Prophet ﷺ, and she's now got her sword out. And these people are literally, they're moving to catch arrows. And Talha ibn Ubaidah radiallahu anhu gets 70 wounds defending the Prophet ﷺ. 70. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said about him, if you want to see a walking shaheed. Because it was, it was already done for him. So, so walking shaheed. He already martyred himself for the sake of Allah and His Messenger. So he used to say that if you want to see a walking shaheed, إذا تريد أن ترى شهيدا يمشي فانظروا إلى طلحة ibn Ubaydah. Over 70. And then also Zubair ibn Awam, who once took off his shirt and there were just wounds everywhere. Like, not wounds, but scar tissue. And somebody said to him, where did all that come from? And he said, on the day of Uhud. So Wahab and Al-Harith are defending the Prophet as well. And Talha was a brilliant archer. And the Prophet's commanding them and telling them what to do. And one of the things that happened is the Prophet ﷺ was hit he had chain mail because they wear the helmet and there was mail alongside the helmet. So you had the Arab helmets. You can see them they had chain mail like that along the side, and sometimes for the nose. So you had the chain mail. I won't do that. You had the chain mail here. The Prophet ﷺ was hit, and you got two links embedded deep into his cheek, and then also his tooth, one of his teeth of the side from the front to alongside the eye teeth was chipped, and his face is covered with blood. And there's a point where he says, no people will ever have any success if they cover their Prophet's face in blood. And at that point, Allah revealed the ayah, لَيْسَ لَكَ مِنَ الْأَمْرِ شَيْءٍ. This is not your affair. You don't have anything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in charge, and everything that's happening is happening for reasons, and لَيْسَ لَكَ مِنَ الْأَمْرِ شَيْءٍ. And one of the things the Prophet ﷺ, when Ibn Uqaymah tried to kill the Prophet actually made a dua against him. And a ram found him on a mountain one night and butt him to death. Yeah. And then the other person who's the Makhzumi Shammas also was one of the people who's closest to the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet actually called him his shield on that day. Shammas took so many wounds for him. So this was obviously... And then another thing, Anas ibn Nadir. Anas was, when they said that everybody had died, Anas radiallahu anhu, he came and saw all of these people sitting down. And he said, what are you doing? They said, we lost, the Prophet died. He said, even if he died, go out and die for the same reason that he died. And so he led them back in, and he fought ferociously, and he's martyred as well. And they said he took over 80 blows, and only his sister could identify him from his fingers. He was so mutilated. And Sa'ad ibn paradise, coming from Uhud. Now, the people that the Prophet ﷺ, the other thing that Abu Amr had actually made a pit and put grass over it. And the Prophet fell into that and actually at a point lost consciousness. And he lost a lot of blood also. And so when they said, is the Prophet ﷺ dead? Sayyidina Umar wanted to say no, and he told them not to say anything. And he said that they should go to Uhud. And so they go and retreat to a mountain place. And the mushrikeen were actually over them. The Prophet said we should be over them. That Islam ya'alu wa la yu'ala alayh. And so and Talha carries him because the Prophet's so weak he can't even climb. And Talha, despite all of his wounds, is carrying the Prophet ﷺ. So at this point now, Abu Sufyan is shouting, Al-Harbu Sijal. War is Sijal. One day for you, one day against you. And he says, هذا اليوم لبدر. Today is for Badr. And then he shouts out that, we've gotten back, and Sayyidina Umar can't hold himself. There's a few different narrations, but Sayyidina Umar shouts out. One says that the Prophet told him to. He shouts out, you're a liar. It's not like, this is not for Badr, because your dead are in the fire and our dead are in paradise. And then he says, we have Uzza. We have Uzza, because they were fighting for Uzza. That's what they were shouting, Ya Uzza, Ya Hubal. And Sayyidina Umar says, he said that Allah is our Mawla. Wa la Mawla lakum. You have no Mawla. You have no master. Our master is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have no protector. And so the Prophet ﷺ now has gone up to this place and they've taken refuge and disarray. But basically now the Quraysh are retreating. And most of them, according to the ones that became Muslim afterwards, said they were all wounded. They really didn't want to fight anymore. So the Muslims should not see this as a defeat. They weren't defeated. The Quraysh they couldn't finish it off. And they would have, had they been able to. But they did suffer a lot of losses. They were also worried that there were reinforcements would come from Medina, because people had gone back to Medina. So they were worried. They had fear. And so they begin to retreat. And in one riwayah, the Prophet ﷺ tells Umar to tell Abu Sufyan that they will meet again, that their maw'id is in Badr in the coming year. Abu Sufyan says, we'll meet you again, and he said, tell them that it's a maw'id. So this is a sign, that they weren't defeated. There was izzah there. But there's a lot of lessons to be learned from the Battle of Uhud. And the most important is that disobeying the Messenger of Allah is what causes all the calamities on Islam and on the Muslims. Because that's what they did. The archers disobeyed the Prophet ﷺ. Now the Prophet ﷺ, when they actually went out, one of the people that they went to, Sa'ad ibn Rabi'a also, who was one of the people that was martyred, the Prophet actually wanted to find out where he was and sent somebody out to find him, I think Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas. And when he found him, he was just about to die, and he said, I can see paradise. I can see it. And then he said also tell the Ansar that they should be ashamed of themselves, and that we promise tell them never to forget the Aqaba. And it's also important, though, that out of all the people that died, there were only 6 Quraysh died, 6 of the Muhajirin. Over 70 of them were from the Ansar. So, it's a very sad event, but it's part of what Allah is teaching the Ummah. And there were incredible lessons. And one of the great lessons of Uhud is that the Prophet ﷺ is still, despite all that's happened, is still in a state of izzah. And the next day, he has them go out on the ghazwa of Hamr al-Asad, and he will only allow the people that went to Uhud to go out. And some of them were carrying others. They were so weak. But he went out the next day to go and chase the Meccans. And the Meccans, when they realized that, they were totally afraid. So it was a brilliant strategy to make sure that they would not come back, because the Muslims were weak. So again, the military genius of the Prophet ﷺ, but also the izzah that's there in the Messenger of Allah on that day. So maybe inshallah I'll cover a little bit more about that, some of the ayahs, because there were a lot of ayahs that were revealed, but we'll take a break because the next class is coming up. Mm-hmm.
One question. Is it in this book it says when they started mutilating the body, the Prophet Muhammad says that the human face is seen as the godlike part of the body.
Yeah.
When one is straight and low.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's a good point. That's another one of Martin Ling's errors there, I think. That there is a hadith, and it's a sound hadith, اجتنب الوجه فإن آدم خلق على صورته. Avoid the face because Adam was created on his form. Now, obviously the anthropomorphists, people that wanted to liken God to a human, took that hadith as interpreting it to mean that the human being was created on the form of God. But the ulama say that pronoun, the damir, goes back to the man. If you're going to fight somebody, then avoid the face because that face is the face of Adam, the first man. In other words, the face is something Allah has, He's ennobled Bani Adam with His face. The face is the nobility of the Adamic creature, is in his face. And so avoid the face when you fight. So I think that's a really dangerous, I would cross that, and I'm glad you brought that up. 191.